Now, this is a big deal. Every single political candidate running for office in 19 days needs to be asked about this. The CDC has come out and voted to include the COVID shot in the recommended shots, the recommended vaccine package that kids get in order to go to school, okay? Basically, they're treating the COVID shot like it's measles, mumps, rubella. Here's the difference. Everybody's already had COVID just about. Almost every kid out there has already had COVID. And if you're a parent and you're like, my kid never had COVID, there's probably a very, very good chance that they did, and it was such a mild case that you never knew, because most young kids have virtually no impact from having COVID, okay? My kids have never tested positive for COVID. I would be stunned if they haven't had it, considering I've had COVID at least twice, probably more, frankly. My wife has had COVID multiple times as well. It seems highly unlikely that our kids have not had it also. Your kids, too. I've been straightforward. I've been transparent. I've told you the truth on this for a long time. My kids, I'm not going to get the COVID shot for them, okay? Chances are your young kids, same thing is true. Somewhere around 95% of young children, that's 6 month to 5-year-olds, parents are choosing not to get the COVID shot, which is why I think this most recent Marist poll that came out showed that parents are voting Republican 64 to 29. That is, Republicans are plus 35 right now for parents. And a large part of this, I think, has to do with schools being closed, kids being required to wear masks, and now with the CDC trying to mandate that your kids get the COVID shot. Now, CDC saying, we're not requiring any state to require the COVID shot. We're just merely giving recommendations that they do so. Let me tell you something. So many states out there, and you parents know exactly what I'm saying, they deferred completely to the CDC recommendations. All these bureaucrats in so many different states just said, well, we're going to follow the CDC recommendation. They didn't actually do their own research. They didn't actually make their own decisions. Worse than that, they tried to pass the buck and say, oh, your kids have to wear masks because it's a CDC recommendation. We're just following the guidance from the experts. How often have you heard that over the last couple of years? Oh, this isn't our decision. We're just listening to the public health experts. So the CDC coming out and saying, well, we're not mandating anything. We're just giving recommendations. No. It's time to hold politicians accountable and keep these unelected bureaucrats from trying to dictate what you do and do not do for your children. So every single politician out there running for elective office needs to be asked in the next 19 days, do you support mandatory COVID shots in order for kids to go to school? Every single one of them. We just had Carrie Lake, who's running for governor from Arizona and is going to win. We just had her on the show. And she said, of course, she's not supporting it. I already saw Governor Ron DeSantis put out a video saying as long as he's governor of Florida, it's not going to happen there. A lot of us are fortunate to live in red states. I'm one of them, okay? But the reality is this. There are a lot of politicians out there that are going to dodge this question when they're directly asked it. Almost all of them are going to be Democrats. And as soon as the midterms are over, they're going to tell you, hey, we're going to require your kid to get the COVID shot because the CDC has recommended it, and they're the public health experts. I'm telling you, this is exactly what's going to happen. So if the media actually wants to do its job, we need to have elected officials putting their opinions out there and allowing the American public to vote, including all these parents, about whether or not they want COVID shot mandates to be put in place. It is indefensible. These shots do not make kids safer. Most kids have already had COVID, and there is, unfortunately, bigger risk to young, healthy people from the COVID shot than there is from not getting the COVID shot at all. This is indefensible, and we need to have a real debate with people actually saying what they believe. Now, the truth is, parents are voting, right? Parents are voting with the decision they're making about whether or not to get their kids the COVID shot. That's already occurring. And the vast majority of parents are saying, we are not going to get the COVID shot for our kids, particularly the young kids. I'm not doing it as a parent. I know the vast majority of parents watching and listening to this right now are making the same choice, but we need to ensure that these COVID shot mandates are not going to be put in place and that we can vote. And I would just say this. If you're an undecided voter out there, easy choice. Republicans, by and large, are going to let you make a choice about whether or not your kid gets the COVID shot. Democrats, by and large, are not. Democrats also shut down all your schools, defended the teachers' unions for not wanting to work. This needs to be, and I believe it is going to be, a reckoning election on all the failed policies of Democrats nationwide, reasonable, rational, independent thinkers, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, independents, not connected to any party, are waking up and overwhelmingly saying it's time to hold Joe Biden and the Democrats responsible for their failed policies. This needs to be a red wave election. It needs to be a reckoning election.